Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Young Musician's Guide podcast. I am your host, Aaron Campbell, and today we have Jack of all trades. She's a freelance guitarist, vocalist, songwriter, French horn player, Sahffi Lynne. She and I have a conversation about kind of what you have to do as you're going through this musical life to stay true to yourself, and do things that are artistically fulfilling, yet pick things that are gonna, pay the rent and pay the bills and all that kind of stuff. And just being true to who you are, while you're creating your art, but also making some money so you can also live. So it's a really enriching conversation, and I hope you enjoy it. But before we get into all that, I just want to remind you, if you are enjoying this podcast and you want to see it grow and you want to help us get larger as a community, if you don't mind, please leave a review on either the Apple store, or leave a like or a comment on the YouTube page or wherever you happen to be watching this at. And also, if you could, please share this podcast with other people. If you are getting value out of it, I'm sure there's somebody else in your friend circle who is going to also get a lot of value out of it. And of course, if you have a couple spare dollars and you want to help us more monetarily, we have the Patreon. I will link that down below. But if you go on there and you want to help us a little monetarily to get the overhead taken care of, that would also be greatly appreciated. Yeah, outside of that, very short intro. Remember that you can always find links to me and whoever my guests are in the descriptions down below. Go find them, check them out, get a hold of the guests on social media, as well as reach out to me on social media. I'm looking forward to seeing and meeting a lot of you. A lot of you have already reached out and said great things, and I want to meet more. So please feel free to come on over. But yeah, without any more ado, here is freelance artist, I guess we'll call it, freelance artist Sahffi Lynne. So thank you again for coming on again. We're going to act like this is the first time. The cool thing is, and thank you for being a little bit of a guinea pig, you were the very, very, very first interview that I did, and now we're somewhere in the middle of it, but I'm glad now because I feel like now I have a little bit more experience and more things to ask you and pick your brain about.
Okay, great.
So we're going to do an abbreviated version really quick because I have so many awesome questions for you specifically.
Okay.
So really quick, just so the audience knows, because I'm not even going to make the failed attempt at introducing you and what you do and all the crazy things. So when somebody comes up to you, and this is the first question I really wanted to ask you, when somebody comes up to you and they go, "Oh, what do you do?" Because that's the only question we ask people in society.
Mm-hmm.
What do you say?
I say I am a singer-songwriter, performer, teaching artist, and musician. And then they say, "Oh, what kind of music do you play?" And then I say, because it's so varied. I do so many different things. And usually what I tell them is that I studied classical music. The music I write is, acoustic, indie, healing music, but also popular music. And then I also work in house music and electronic music. And then they say, "I have no idea what you do." And I say, "That's okay. I barely do either." And, but it's, it's a good life. I get to do a lot of different things, and it fills my time and my wallet. So that's very lucky.
So what are in terms of the actual jobs that you do outside of the different genres of music that you play, what are some of the things that you kind of get involved into
Sure.
and that diversify your week and your business and all that.
Sure. So there are a few things that I do consistently, and one is private lessons, vocal coaching. One is doing residencies at school with an organization called Kid Pan Alley. We go in for a week-long residency and write songs with the classes, and then on Friday we do a concert of all the songs. That's about once a month. And then I also teach music one morning a week at a little Montessori school here in town. And then the work that fluctuates will be, just gigs, playing at private parties or playing at a wine bar, festival. Then there's, the healing music work that I do where I go and sing at yoga centers or spiritual communities. And then I'll just be hired to be a studio musician. I'll go into studio and sing or play guitar for people. And then there's some things that I do for fun sometimes, of course, my own songwriting, my own, enjoyment of practicing. I do a lot of meditation and yoga and dancing. And then, I have bands that I work with. I have a duo called Goatfish. I have an international group called the Greek Nubian Collective. I play music with some friends, collaborate in different things. So lots of stuff to keep me busy.
You've also got some recordings and stuff like that out that probably bring in some passive income as well, right?
I do. I have 5 albums out, and I'm working on the 6th one. And I have a song that went #1 in South Africa. So there's still some kind of interest in the house music stuff that I've done. And yeah. Mm-hmm.
Sorry, dog.
Oh, you have a dog too?
Yes.
Oh, that's right.
Mine.
You said the dog too. Yeah.
No, she's actually been a guest on every single podcast. Just no one knows it. She's behind me every single podcast.
She's like, "What about me? Not asking me any questions."
Yeah, this is the first time. This is why I'm confused. This is the first time she's ever made any noise. So, yeah, geez, 6 CDs. I'm currently working on my first.
Oh, great!
And that process, so I can't imagine. I haven't even begun my first one, and I couldn't imagine wanting to do it again.
Yeah, that was the first one too.
So you've got a pretty diverse, but you've got some passive stuff. You've got the stuff that's kind of random. It pops up. Mm-hmm. And sometimes those are good and bad. And then you also have the more steady things, like teaching in the school and teaching the lessons and doing the residencies and all that kind of stuff. So because you kind of have a diversified portfolio of income streams, which is really neat. Yeah. And having, because you don't have, a quote unquote day job right now.
Right. Right. Uh-huh.
And so a lot of freelancers, that's what they'll do. They'll get a job at like a guitar store or, Best Buy or anything, and
I did that in the beginning for sure. Yeah. For most of my life, I've only been full-time for about 6 or 7 years now.
And it's a way a lot of people do. And there's no shame about it. But you and I both, like, I don't have a day job as well. I do, mm-hmm. I do so many things during the day, and then I work when other people aren't. And what I have found is like having what you have set up as well, the 3 sets of income of what I call like the popcorn and it's nice to have it. And then mm-hmm. the very steady, which is my private lesson studio. Mm-hmm. But then also having the things that you worked really hard on that you don't work on anymore that slowly bring in some form of revenue. And so, yep. I mean, I'm actively thinking about this because I'm at the very beginning of my career. Now, you've been in the trenches for a while. Did you think about those things as your career generated, or was it just kind of they came up, they happened, and here you are sitting happy now?
Oh, absolutely. It was kind of always a plan of mine to become a full-time musician. I know that I I blocked myself a lot just from the fear of it. But as I always had the will, and the mind to do it. And as I was going along, I had jobs, but I had jobs that would help me right now. Because of course I got a degree in music, music performance, which is great. I learned a lot, but we didn't learn business, So I got a job working at an accountant office, and I got a job as a manager, and I got a job, doing things that I knew would help me run my own business, because it is also a business. You have to understand that, you have to keep track of things. You have to keep your receipts and get an accountant and all these things. And just to, have the knowledge of that, you can get that through your life, and get paid to learn. So that's kind of was one of my strategies. And then when I decided I wanted to, take that plunge, I went part-time instead of full-time. So still had a little bit of part-time income, a little bit of fallback while I was building up my studio, and because I realized I would still need, you need money, so you need some kind of weekly income. And then I went full time, and I was really just trying to do my, solo music career kind of thing. And it was very difficult. It's you gotta kind of be a certain, pop sheeny thing, or have something, just, I don't really know the formula. I still clearly, and that's okay. Then some people do, and that's their path, and that's great. But I realized like this wasn't my path. Like to be a performer only was not the path. I want to, like, for me, I want to be a songwriter, then performer, then teacher, and then those things will kind of, go up and down in the 1, 2, and 3 spot. But in my heart, that's like really where I want to be, And so I knew to do that, I needed to, like you said, I like that, diversify my portfolio. So I actually sat down and wrote down everything I could do. I play French horn, I play drums, I play all these percussion instruments, I do this, I do that. And then I just started looking for opportunities for those things. I've played percussion in bands, I've sung up in backup bands, I've gone on tour playing guitar for a rap group. I just started being like, I just want to be a musician. So I'm going to do whatever I can do to make that happen. And along the way, I will continue working on my own personal, heart goals of wanting to write songs and perform them for people and share them. And so, yeah, it's like any career. I think you grow and you grow into it as you go, but having some starting point, having some awareness of it, is a good thing. Because when, I was a classical musician, and then in my mid-20s, I realized like, oh, I don't want to be a French horn player in the back of an orchestra forever. What am I going to do now? And just kind of was floundering for a little while. I was a waitress, and the guys in the kitchen were like, hey, you should join our rock band. And I was like, yeah, that sounds fun. So I just joined a rock band, having no idea like what I was doing, and that's okay. Sometimes you have to have no idea to find the ideas, So wherever you are in life, that's just where you are. But I think if you're really serious about making music a career, you've got to have some kind of strategy, and also know that the strategy is your own. It's not like accounting where you go to school and you learn the rules and then you apply them and make your business. Music is not that way. You're not, everybody does it a little differently. It's great that you're doing this podcast because you'll be able to hear everybody's different, approach to it. But I'm sure there's going to be something that comes out that all of us do or have done that you're finding. Like, I love that you say there's like these 3 things to kind of focus on, because that's really true. You got to have your, your bread and butter, and then like, how you say, the popcorn, and then maybe like the cola. Like, you don't drink cola all the time. Like, that's the 3rd thing or whatever. Like it's a really good way of putting it.
And it's really interesting too that you sat down and strategized, because I just, when it came to me kind of starting out my freelance and all that, and when it came to starting out that career, it was, okay, what's the thing that I do that I know I can do well, that I have the most experience in, that can make me the most money out of everything I do, which was teaching private lessons. I've already been doing that for about a decade now. Mm-hmm. And so it was, okay, let's set up a private lesson studio to create solid, steady, every week income. And then and then getting your name out, and then, oh, okay, you can play with this group, and we can do this group, and let's put together this quartet or things like that. And then all of a sudden, the small gigs that happen from time to time became a thing. And then, like, and like this podcast doesn't make me money, but it leads to opportunities that could possibly make me money, as well as the YouTube page and things like that. So it's interesting that you sat down and went, what are all the things I can do, and figured it out from there, where I went, okay, what's the one thing I can do really well? And then started to do, okay, what are all the other things that I can do that can help bump that up as well? Did you, so, I mean, you almost created some sort of a kind of a business model. So when you wrote down your list and you were like, okay, I can do all of these things, then you've got to go, okay, so I can do these things. Let me find people who need these services and are willing to be a patron of mine. How did that search start?
That's right. That was just kind of, when you write it all down, it's, for me, it was a little overwhelming. Like, wow, I didn't realize I do all these things. And then, wow, look at all the work I have to do, to utilize all these talents. So it is kind of just a process.
Complain about it. I'm so talented. Oh, woe is me. I can do so many things.
Well, like you said, though, you have to find people to do it. And I was feeling the pressure, like, I have to do all these things. But I just, you just start, it's just kind of just, surrender and just one step at a time. I think on that list, I even wrote names next to it. Like, I play horn. Okay, let me contact this woman I know who has an orchestra. Can sing and can be hired as a studio. Okay, I know these 3 guys who own studios. Let me let them know that I'm available for hire. And just kind of work through the list. And I think the other thing in this kind of career is longevity and patience, because it takes a long time to, let people know that not only, 1, are you available, but number 2, you're reliable. Number 3, you can do the job. It takes years. And I'm finally at a place, after 7 years, that people are like, oh yeah, Sahffi, got it. But I'm still, working to feel comfortable, okay, I'm in this. I still feel like I have, this is the other thing. I think you always have to prove yourself in this career. It's not like someone's like, oh, that person, yes, until you're older, really in the classical world, you didn't get any respect until you maybe hit 60,
that's 100% true. We just had our Florida Music Educators conference.
Oh,
right,
yeah.
Here in Tampa, and it's awesome. It's great, and anybody who lives in Florida, I highly suggest doing it. It's worth the money you're going to spend, even if you're not actually like a band director, but you're a musician in Florida. I had a stack like an inch thick of business cards of people to follow up with.
Sure.
Of just so many things. But it was funny, I brought my horn, and I would go to a mouthpiece booth and I say, hey, can I play it? The reps wouldn't pay too much attention to me. And I'm not young. I'm not a kid, but I'm also not what you're talking about, this super old, established, player. And so I just always, just to instantly get their attention, I just rip something big and lots of buttons and all that kind of stuff, and they almost instantly turn around and go, oh, this person's serious. But it's so funny, like they go, oh, this guy's in his 20s, he's a euphonium player, he's not going to pay anything, he doesn't have any money,
right.
And so it's very interesting in that, and also having that patience and developing your career as well. We're in a world of, one of the cool things that music does teach us is patience. It's one of the few things that we can do that you're going to get better at over time. And it's not, I live in a world where it is, like all of your students and mine too, like they come home, they go to do their homework while watching TV with music going, while talking to their friends on Facebook Messenger, while, like 6 things going on at a time. And we're being told like, you need to multitask. You need to be constantly doing everything at one time. And also everything is instant. Like if I don't know the answer to something, I have a device in my pocket that will tell me right away. There's no going to the library and researching anymore. There's none of that. And so a lot of people, like, if your big goal is I want to make horn transcriptions of major symphonies, but as a horn choir, and I want to put those videos on YouTube, and then you're shocked as to why you don't have 4,000 subscribers over 2 weeks. Like, that's not how these things work. Like you said, like, you're working on your 6th CD. You have number 5 right now. You have 5 in the bag. Like, I could probably go on and purchase them now. I bet you the sales from your first CD do not match the sales from the second and the third. Like, each one probably sales a little bit better each time.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I remember, being younger and looking at, someone in my position now and just being like, why can't I do that? And it's not only, an impatience, but it can also be, really hard on your ego, on your self-esteem. You're like, why can't I do that? But, just I think if it's something you're really passionate about and you really love and enjoy, you just have to remember that everything takes time. And music, one of the beautiful things also about music is you're never satisfied. You never are there. You have those moments where you'll play or you sing and you're like, oh, I am so in the groove right now. I sound great, But then the next day you practice, you're like, that break is back or whatever, Like that's a great thing about music. You're always learning, always growing. So if you can remember that, that's the business you got into, that you're always learning, always growing, then where you are right now is just fine because you're going to always learn and always grow. And when you come to where I am now, you haven't arrived. I haven't arrived. I hope not. I hope I keep learning and growing, So it's just a mindset that's what I think is really the key, to success is the mindset. And it's not ego. It's not, anything except just true love and passion for what you do and what you give to the world, because I really do believe music is a gift that we're given so that we can share it with the world. So, and it's just, I'm not always sure why it has to be so difficult, but, but maybe that's part of it, to make sure you're really, didn't grow up with any religion, but isn't that like a religious kind of theme? Like people are tested to make sure that their heart is really pure or something. I don't know.
Well, and you're 100% right with the. Here's the thing. I mean, this is the Young Musicians Guide podcast, even though I am learning that a lot of actually established people are listening. But if you are, what you would consider, your youth is a gift in itself. You might not be the established person with a gazillion contacts that you've known for 20 years, and you might not be that person, but in your youth, you have, the one thing you do have is energy, and also patience. A lot of, as you get older, the enthusiasm to live off of peanut butter and crackers goes away. To stay up until 2:00 and wake up at 6 a.m. That that your body physically can't handle anymore. You're lower on responsibility, all that kind of stuff. But also, if you're finding that like you were saying, you have to be tested. If you're finding that the ridicule and all that kind of stuff is weighing itself on you, like you're not in the right place.
Yeah, the rejection is immense. I mean, for every one thing you see that I do, there's 20 things behind it where people have ignored me or said no thank you, or it's a tough it is a tough road, and you have to have really this knowledge that you're doing the right thing, and that's not it's not an ego. I think that's another thing. Musicians often, come to the table with this huge ego, like, but that's really just such a sheen for, insecurity, you know, and it's gonna blow out really quickly because you can't sustain that, you know, and people are gonna see through it, you know. So it's really about just really being so authentic and really just wanting it. And when you do that, you know, you'll meet the right people. I mean, the people just come to you. The opportunities just come to you. You meet amazing musicians, amazing mentors, amazing students. It just starts happening, and then, you know, one day you wake up, you're like, oh, I can buy cheese and not just peanut butter, you know. So it's a snowball kind of effect, you know, an avalanche. It gets bigger as you go. So just remember that, you know, you start with nothing, and then you always can look back so fondly. You know, I mean, it's funny because when I decided to become a full-time musician, it also coincided with me leaving my husband. I mean, I just completely decided that, you know, I was in the wrong life and path. And, you know, we had a small daughter, and it was difficult. And I just left, you know, and I had nothing. I was sleeping on the floor for a year. Was like, you know, nothing, you know, and I wasn't a kid. I was 38 or something, you know, so I was a little bit of a late bloomer, and I was like, what am I doing? I'm nuts. But I just followed my heart and my passion, and I didn't care that I slept on the floor, even though of course I did. I was very sad. It was a rough time. But now I look back, and that's what I say. I'm like, I didn't care I slept on the floor. I was, you know, determined, because it becomes, you know, a strength. You know, you're like, yeah, I was able to do that, you know, and now I'm here, you know, like it's just a life. It's a choice. And the other thing, though, is just to remember, it's like you don't have to be a starving artist. You might start that way, but it's not something you have to hold on to. I mean, it's also, you know, the culture that we live in is very materialistic. And, you know, I got a lot of comments like, what are you doing? You need to be responsible. You have a child. You're breaking up your family for your pipe dreams, you know. And I mean, I'm sure you hear it a lot. Like, what are you doing? You should have a job with, you know, benefits and insurance and blah, blah, blah. You know, you have to just trust the gift, again, that you're given. It's really a higher purpose, a higher calling. Not that, you know, anything else isn't, but it really does come outside of what mainstream normal thought patterns are. And I think, though, that this is a good time, you know, for people to see people like us doing this, because, you know, a lot of people, they're happy in where they are and having a job, but maybe something in their mind, they always wanted to paint or they always wanted to sing, but they never thought it was something viable. So they look at us and they're like, wow, they're making a life doing, you know, what I wish I could just do on Saturday night. I guess I can do that on Saturday night, you know. So it's all good, you know. It's tough, but it's good, and it's good to remember that and find these podcasts and find the books to read and, you know, hear so many great. I love YouTube. I can't even believe that was invented. That's the coolest thing ever. You know, so many great meditations and lectures to hear, and it just, you know, just to keep yourself going. TED Talk. I mean, come on, right? So there's just so much great things now that can help you and help inspire you, you know. So, back in my day, we didn't have any.
Well, and there's a big gap in generational thinking. Like I sit back and giggle when I see, you know, not to, like, my grandparents who are like making fun of millennials with their Instagrams and like, why do you post a photo on there every day? What's that matter? And it's like, well, actually, I'm an influencer and I get paid by a brand to just take a picture and hashtag their brand name.
Yeah,
like that is a business. You find it as this silly little thing, I mean, for the longest time, with the invention of suburban culture and the baby boomers and all of that, it was get a job with a W-2, get a house in a cul-de-sac, have 3 kids, a dog, live in a place for 40 years, work in a place for 40 years, do the same 9-to-5 grind with a briefcase, and then die. Like that was life. That was life. And again, though,
that life works for some people. You know, some people like that stability, but not everybody. And that's the thing we're learning now is, like, you know, okay, the ones that don't fit into that, what are we going to do? And, this transition where we're getting mocked and, ridiculed and, getting a lot of anger, but it's, coming out of it. I think the internet, the opening of the world and the knowledge, it's really showing us there's so many different types of people. And if we allow everybody to be who they are, it all fits together nicely. So, but it's something to be aware of because, what you're talking about is kind of the American dream, quote unquote. And, it is, but not for everyone. And it's okay that it's not for everyone. And that's what we need to know.
Yeah. Ramit, what is his last name? I don't want to mess it up, but and I'm going to find it while I'm talking about it. But he's quoted in his book. He's a finances guy. He has the book "I Will Make You Rich," which I'll link in the description, and he talks about investing in things that matter to you, and he's talking about material things, money. Like here, I live in South Tampa. It's a very posh area, and everybody here is driving a BMW or an Audi or a Mercedes or something like that, and I'm driving a Toyota, and it does its gig and it gets me around. I don't care about cars, and do that with your life too in a lot of ways. Like invest in you and invest in what you care about. And because there are so many people who get brainwashed at 15, 16, that if you're not getting straight A's and becoming a doctor, then you're a failure at life. And success is this success in high school is a 4.0 and success in college is a 4.0 and a bachelor's degree and graduating cum laude. And then success in life is a 6-figure income bank account. And that's not saying that you can't have these things as a musician or as an entertainer or any of that kind of stuff, and you can't be smart with your money and all that. But like the life that you and I just spoke about scares me way more than the prospect of ever having to sleep on a floor again.
Yes.
Because at some point you wake up and you go, am I in fact living at all? Am I making work that matters? Am I contributing to the world in a way that is tangible? And it seems like you had that. By the way, his name is Ramit Sethi. I'm totally probably butchering that, but read his book if you're interested in becoming if you read his book in general. If you're 20 something especially and don't know anything about finances, do read his book. That's how I learned about Roth IRAs and online accounts.
Yeah, they don't teach stuff in school. Like, why not? I don't understand. There should totally be a life class.
Well, because for the longest time with those W-2 jobs, you had your 401k set up for you, your benefits set up for you. So you just mindlessly invested. You didn't have to worry about it yourself. And that's what scares a lot of people is they're as being a freelancer. I mean, how did you learn all of you've got to file taxes 4 times in a year, and that scares people to do it once.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I got a job as working for an accountant. I was a secretary for an accountant, and just I just got real life experience because I was like, I don't know anything about money. I have no idea, so I need to find a job. And the coolest thing was I went into this interview, and I have no experience, but the accountant used to be a trumpet player. And he used to be a jazz trumpet player, back in the 40s, in Baltimore. And then he realized that, that wasn't his calling. And he decided to be an accountant. And then he had all the musicians as his clients. So I walked into his office and he had a picture of a trumpet on the wall, one of those artsy trumpet pictures. And I said, "Oh, are you a trumpet player?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Wow, I went to school for French horn. That's amazing." He said, "Your hired musicians are always good workers." And I was like, "Well, I have no experience." He's like, "It doesn't matter. I know you'll do well." And so that's what I'm saying. It's like if you realize, oh, I need to do this, you will be so surprised, where life takes you. I couldn't believe that it was that easy to get a job at an accountant office with no experience, but it was just something I needed and I knew it. And life was like, oh, here's a trumpet player accountant. I was like, awesome. So
if you had to say, and I'm hoping you give the answer that I want you to give, because I feel like this is the answer you're going to give. if you had to say what is one thing that is like, this is the reason they keep hiring me, and there's like the one thing that you know above all else, this is why I keep getting paid by people, or they keep giving me call, no matter what it is you're doing, because I mean you do a diverse amount of things, but what would be that one thing?
One thing, I think it's a combination of a lot of things. You know, I think the main thing is to be professional and responsive. You know, people, they don't want to, you know, email you and then you take 5 days to get back. You know, they really want professionalism. You're a business. You know, if you want work, you need to be working. And punctuality is huge. I mean, you know, you always have to be early and on time. And I know it's hard for musicians, but it's people want to be able to rely on you. And, you know, practice. I mean, really bringing the talent, you know, not just, I don't phone anything in, you know, even if it's like, you know, I just did this gig in the fall. I was, you know, singing for this guy. He was doing some demos, and, you know, it was nice music, but it was very simple melody, very easy. And my first thought was, oh, I got this, you know, after a couple listens. And I was like, no, man, you gotta get in there and really learn this music. And I did. And then I even learned harmonies, and I went into the studio and just, you know, I was prepared. He had 2-hour slot book. I was like, I don't need 2 hours. He's like, well, just in case. I was done with the recording and the harmonies in like 45 minutes. And he was blown away. He was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is so amazing. Thank you so much. You know, and he didn't say, well, you know, you were only here for an hour, I'm going to dock your pay. You know, I mean, he was so grateful. And like, so just always deliver above what even you think you should deliver, you know? So those are maybe my 3 top important things.
Well, yeah. And like where I kind of hoped you were going to go is just being, and these are all aspects of what you just said, is all aspects of this one big thing, is just being a good person and just being,
gosh, that too.
Like,
being nice. I mean,
being like,
nice?
And being like, be the kind of person as you work that you would want to hire.
Oh, clearly. Yeah.
You know,
what I'm hoping, everything I'm saying is something that you would want in your life.
That's entirely it, is, you know, man, punctuality, especially with like the two of the things that you just talked about, is you were prepared and you were on time for a thing that literally costs money per hour for the person who contracted you to come in. So he was ecstatic. First off, if you don't show up on time, you're costing them money by the minute if you're not there on time. And then secondly, you're costing them money by the minute if they keep having to you miss that, you're flat on this or whatever. You're costing them money. You're actually you're actually making your becoming more marketable to them, because you're actually adding value. And even though they're paying you, they don't have to pay the guy who owns the studio any extra time. So you were done. How fast did you say you were done?
45 minutes. Yeah.
So
he had 2 hours slot.
So he had an extra hour to do something else.
That's right. Yeah.
That would go on there. And so all of a sudden, you know, his mind's blown. He doesn't know what to do with himself. He's so excited. And all of a sudden you've made his contact list on a regular basis. Anybody calls him, he goes, I know
and
this
the
vocalist.
Studio, that was a new studio for me to go in. And the studio was like, wow, can we call you if we need a singer? I'm like, yes. So that was good for me too, you know, because I not only, you know, did a good job for him, the studio saw, oh, she's professional. Great, you know.
And I like that you were talking about just the communication lines of things. Following up is something that musicians need to do and are horrible about.
Yes.
I can't, and just one of the things that I've gotten into the habit of here recently is I get hired to play, like I play with the Florida Wind Band on a regular basis. I'm on the sub list right now, but I've played probably the last 6 concerts with them. And the director is my college band director. I know him very well. The section leader I went to college with, and he's a good friend of mine. And like he saw me cross my fraternity. Like we're very good friends. And every single time they ask me to come in and play that concert, the concerts are on Sunday, the Monday after, I email both of them and say, hey, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yes. That's so important too, isn't it? Like that follow up, like, thank you so much.
But
it's great to work with you. Yeah.
I watch you, through the social medias and all that kind of stuff, and you respond to comments frequently,
Yes.
and you're present on all the things you're doing. So what kind of value does that add to the people who are on there? Because even though they're not, your Facebook page for your artists is not necessarily, you're not making money off of people who comment on there. So why be so diligent about it? And I think this is something I struggled with in the beginning too, because another thing about us usually is we're very shy, very introverted. And that's why we like being musicians, because I think we can get on stage and we can play music for you and we can connect with you in a way where we don't have to talk to you. It's really true. So, but as I've grown in this, I realized people, that is what music does. It's connection. We all want connection. We all want to be seen. We want to be heard. We want to be validated. And when you're giving someone music and they connect with it, they want to connect back. They want to tell you, thank you. I like your music. Thank you for what you do. And if you don't validate their gratitude, their connection, they lose it. They lose that connection, And so it doesn't matter how painful it is. You've got to, say something back, even if it's thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed it, because imagine, your favorite band or whatever, and maybe 5. And then how many of those are, oh yeah, we actually have a thing that you can do.
Yeah, maybe 1 or 2.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I'm saying. Like every one thing that I get, there's 20 things behind it that didn't happen. So it's scary, and then you put yourself out there, and it's a balance between getting a real thick skin, and then just being, allowing, just being humble, and just being like, well, whatever happens, it's supposed to happen, that surrender, just release the resistance of, but it's always going to be there. It's just, you have to manage it, and not allow it to control you, which is the trick.
And you have to put yourself in the seat of we'll call them contractors, or the people you're trying to drum up work from. I mean, they're probably getting other emails from other musicians. They might already have a horn person or a singer, or they might have the things that you already do. They don't really have a need for your services right there. My stuff has gone into the spam folder before.
Sure.
I mean, they probably, because they're head of something, they're probably getting a gazillion emails. You might just get put in there. You might have worded something that just they didn't like. It very rarely does it have to say anything about you.
About you, yeah. Absolutely, yeah. And sometimes they'll even say that, when you're making the application or whatever, we get a lot of applications. You probably won't hear from us. Sometimes they'll even put that out there, which is always nice, because you're like, okay, it's not me.
Anytime, and this is if any of you listeners go on and become contractors, just take the 20 seconds, put it into a Word document that you just have open whenever you're doing that work, and just say, thank you for your information. We'll put it on file. We have no need for your work as of now. Just something like that.
It would be nice. But again, that takes time, and sometimes they don't have it,
Oh, just copy and paste it, guys. Come on, please. You have the time. If you have the time to watch a cat video, which we all do it. So do you have, you were talking about reading books and taking in all this kind of stuff and enjoying YouTube. Is there anything specific that is tangible that I can get my listeners to get their hands on that you would suggest for them? Any books or anything?
Good question. It's not off the top of my head. I remember you were talking about some book that had an email, an email example of a cold call email. What was that book you were talking about? Oh
yeah, that's Seth Haines, Break Into the Scene. That's his book. I'm also right now I'm beta testing. He's doing an online course.
Oh, cool.
And I'm beta testing that for him, and it's all about freelancing, and it's essentially how to do it. And I'm only on the first module. I'm kind of in the heat of stuff, so I've got it. But it's 8 modules with 3 sessions each. You can do it at your own amount of time. I think he's planning to do the class for like $250, but the information you get in there could really, if you listen to him, I mean, it could get you thousands of dollars in gigs and stuff. And you're also...
There's so much information out there, and a lot of these people will give out free stuff, you know, kind of like teasers, but you get a lot of information just from the free stuff. And then if you feel like, oh, I really want to go further, cool. And also to me, I always felt like things that came in front of my face were the things I needed to learn. I think everybody's different in what they need, you know. So, you know, if you need help on, you know, business, you know, you're going to go to the library and this business book's going to jump out at you, or you're going to ask your friend, hey, or you're going to post on Facebook, anybody have a recommendation for a book, you know? So it's really, I think it's, you know, on an individual basis, what you need, it will come to you, because there's so much information right now, it can get overwhelming. So that's kind of how I feel like I've always learned, like whatever I'm needing in that moment, something comes up, and teaches me. And I've had I have to say, probably the things I've learned the most are from live things, like private lessons, one-on-one sessions, or even going to a class, you know, or going to a lecture. When it's live, like when you're in that moment of, you know, of really experiencing it, that seems to be really the most powerful way to learn for me. Again, everybody's different. Some people are more visual. Some people, you know, are more tactile. Maybe it's better to, you know, just get in there and pick it up, you know? So, I think knowing yourself is really, you know, that's the best thing I could advise, is know yourself. You know, what do you need right now? If it's, you don't know what you need, go find a book on how do I know what I need? like, seriously, like, you have to figure out who you are, what you want to do, and where you are right now in life, and then it'll come to you.
Great. And so where can we find you and get a hold of all the crazy awesome things that you're up to right now?
You can find me online. It's Sahffi.com, which is SAHFFI.com. And on all the social media, Sahffi, just Sahffi Lynne, Lynne is my last name. But if you just type Sahffi, I come up.
Awesome. Any advice? Any other advice for young musicians looking to find their way in the music world?
The only other thing I'm thinking of is just to give yourself space and time. I know for myself, when I was younger, you know, I was impatient. I was impatient in, you know, life. I was impatient in love, and I was, you know, rushing and, you know, doing things where if I look back now, I know that wasn't the right thing to do. I know that, you know, like I knew it somewhere inside of me, but I was just so like, I gotta do this now, you know? And of course, you know, as you get older, you have the experience, you know, of looking back. I think that my grandfather used to always tell me, youth is wasted on the young. And now I'm like, oh, I see why he says that. But I mean, that's a beautiful thing about being young. You know, you get to have all that. However, you want to make sure that what you're doing is really what you want, because, you know, you think right now, like, yes, that's the man for me or the woman for me, and we're doing this. And then you realize, oh, she doesn't allow me to do my work, or, oh, it's distracting me from what I need to do. That's not the right relationship, you know, no matter what. Or if you get the gig and you're like, oh, I finally got the gig, you know, I'm so happy. Like that was me with the French horn my whole life, you know, since I was in 5th grade. I was studying to be a horn player, and I went to Peabody and I studied with the guy at Juilliard. I was like, horn player. And once I got there, I was like, I don't want this. You know? Like, why am I doing this? You know? And luckily, I was brave enough and crazy enough to totally shift gears and find what else I want to do. And that's the thing, too, is like, forgive yourself. You did that for a reason. whenever you figure it out, then okay, go that way. You just, but it would have been a little bit easier on me if I had, started there, but that's okay. I'm not regretful because I learned, but that would be my advice. Like if, just follow your heart, man, your heart will tell you. Your mind, it's good for asking questions, for learning, but follow your heart to know, to know the answers. So.
Well, awesome. Hey, thank you so much for coming on and doing time. Remember, young musicians, stay happy but never satisfied.